What's going on? So, the camera's a little bit close here. Okay, that should be good. All right. So, guys, um, we are going to be talking today about creating an environment for success. And mess with that camera a little more. There we go. We're going to be talking about creating an environment for success. Now, the reason that we're going to be talking about this one is because this is something that I feel like a lot of people don't have in their lives. A lot of people are lacking. And honestly, it causes a lot of people to not end up reaching their true potential in their sport. So before we get into it, before we start the show, as always, welcome. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, make sure you go check it out at theelitedevelopmentpodcast.ca. Or any of the major podcast platforms. If you have been back, you know the deal. You know why we're here. We're here to help athletes reach their true potential. We are here to help athletes build their dream careers in sport. Now, let's get going into the show. We're talking about creating an environment for success. And we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we're talking about creating an environment for success. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this one to you guys, the reason we're talking about creating an environment for success is because, honestly, this is something that I feel like a lot of us don't have. This is something that I feel like a lot of us aren't necessarily born into. And that's not from a standpoint of, necessarily being born into like a bad situation. Necessarily, like, it's not saying that, everybody's born dirt poor, living on the street and abandoned as a child, horrible things like that obviously happen in our world. But basically what I want to really touch on today is how you can create an environment that is actually going to foster success in your life. Because there's a big difference between being born into a good family and being born into an environment that fosters success. And so let's get into it. Now, a lot of people have big goals, whether it's in their athletic careers, business, whatever else it might be for you, but they have no blueprint on how to achieve those goals, or they have no knowledge right away that they have these big goals. And so instead of just settling for what life gives you, teaching yourself how to actually achieve the potential you have, teaching yourself how to actually go for the things that you want instead of the things that are just put in front of you. Now, even for myself growing up, I was born into a good family. We never went without. Things were good by all accounts. And this is no, knock on my childhood or anything like that whatsoever, just putting that out there. But my parents both worked salary jobs, which, is great. And if that's you, that's you. And we lived a very kind of typical, normal, middle-class life. And that was great. There was nothing wrong with that. But as I was growing up, I started kind of coming into these clues that I wanted more than that, coming into these clues that, the life that my parents had, as good as it was, and as much as there was nothing at all wrong with it, wasn't for me. But I had no idea why I felt that way, and I had no idea how to break out of that position. So as I was growing up, as I was in high school, I was following that same path, go to school, get the girl, find the job, buy the house, live happily ever after kind of life. And again, I'm going to say this like 1,000 times in this episode, but there's nothing wrong with that. But as I was doing it, I was extremely unhappy. And I didn't consciously realize right away that I was, but I started realizing over time that this wasn't the life I wanted. I had the girl, I was getting the degree to go get the comfortable job, whatever else. And I realized I was fucking miserable. And so even though there was nothing necessarily wrong with my environment, it was not the environment that I needed. It was not the environment that was going to allow me to see the success that I wanted in my life. And again, success to me is a very, strange kind of term, because to me, honestly, it means being happy. And I'm happy when I'm pushing myself and trying to achieve something great. Some people are happy when they've got their, just nice, comfortable job. They can go do fun things on the weekend, whatever else it is. So I knew that even though there was nothing wrong with my environment, it wasn't the environment that was going to actually push me forward. So I'm not going to dig too much into, the growing up portion, but basically I hit a point where I knew things had to change. And I hit a point where I had broken up with the girl. Well, full transparency, she broke up with me. And I moved across the country to Calgary to a job that was paying me literally $0.00 an hour. And on the surface, I was super nervous. I was super scared. I was super worried about, stepping into this position. What if I failed? What if it doesn't go well? All these thoughts kept coming across my mind. But the underlying thought to that was, damn, this is exciting. Like, I get to go fucking prove myself. I get to go figure out whether or not I can fucking make it in this industry that I've loved since I was 13 years old. And, I got to that job. They were paying me $0.00 an hour, and it was a 200-hour internship before I was allowed to take clients. And my first question on my first day was, how fast was the fastest anyone's ever finished their 200 hours? And they told me, I can't remember exactly what it was, 35, 36 days or something like that. And I had mine done in under 30. And then the next step was getting promoted from, a level 2 coach that had finished the internship to a level 3 coach that was, a little bit, not a boss, but a little bit higher level. And I asked, how long does it take to get that promotion? And everybody was basically telling me, well, it'll take probably 2 years. And I got mine in 7.5 months. And that competitive spirit started to come out. And I started to realize that, the environment that I was in now that fostered competition, that fostered, pushing myself and trying to see what I was capable of, was the environment that I was actually meant to be in, and the environment that was actually going to make me thrive. And then again, a little bit of time passed. There were some other issues with that company that I'm not going to get too much into. And I decided to go off on my own, and I decided to pursue running my own business. And same idea, as I quit, I had a bunch of people telling me, it's the worst mistake you're ever going to make. You're going to regret it. All of these things that, you hear from people that you work with when you quit a job. And within a month, the gym I had been working for had shut down. And a year and a half later, I opened my first gym. So needless to say, not regretting it as of right now. But the reason that I wanted to talk about this, and then the last piece of this that I wanted to touch on, was when the COVID lockdowns came. When the COVID lockdowns came, I was really forced to sit back and look at my life. And I realized that, yes, I was in a better position. I was in an environment that fostered your work equals your reward. Whatever you're willing to put in is what you're going to get out. But I still wasn't in a position that I really loved. I felt like I was in a little bit of a toxic environment, certain people around me that, I didn't quite enjoy being around. And this is no shot at any of them. Everybody's different. But to me, I just wasn't feeling good where I was at. And so during those COVID lockdowns, I isolated myself. Like, that first lockdown, I think, lasted 12 weeks here in Calgary. And I literally did not see one other person those whole 12 weeks. And the reason I did that was because I realized, again, my environment needed to change. My environment needed to change. The people I surrounded myself with needed to change. And, what I spent my time doing outside of coaching needed to change if I was going to see the success that I wanted to see in my life. And so through that whole lockdown, I saw literally no one. And then in the year and 2.5 years, I guess now, since that lockdown, I've completely shifted that around. I don't tolerate negative bullshit in my life anymore. I don't tolerate being around people that aren't pushing me forwards or that I can't help push forwards, because that's where I'm happy. That's where I thrive, is when I'm in that kind of environment. And the reason I tell this to you guys, the reason I, wanted to share a little bit of that, is because if you are an athlete right now that is aiming towards, high level goals, aiming towards a UFC career, aiming towards, professional athletic career of any kind, the chances are there are people in your environment that aren't pushing you towards that and are pulling you back from that. Whether it's the girlfriend that says, oh, you shouldn't train all the time, you should just, come home and spend more time with me, or whether it's the parents telling you that it's time to give up on this crazy dream and go get a quote unquote real person job, or whether, whoever it is, you've got someone in your life that's not pushing you towards the goals that you have. Because we're not automatically born into this perfect environment help us thrive. So, what I want to implore you to do is I want to invite you to ask yourself who in your life right now is pushing you forwards? Who in your life right now is the people that, when they walk into the room, you're just happy, you're excited that they're there, you want to spend more time around them, and you know that you're just a better person when they're around. And on the other side, who in your life right now is holding you back? Who do you see on a regular basis that every time you see them, you just have that feeling of like, ugh, like this again, I can't believe I have to deal with this. Oh my God, would you just go away? Like those kind of negative thoughts. And the reason it's important to think about that is because there's something about those people that is making you feel that way. There's something about that friend that spent all their time bitching about, how COVID was the worst thing in the world and the government's out to get us and this, that, and the other thing. And if you believe that, that's one thing. If you spend all your time bitching about that, that's another. Now, there's something about that kind of friend. There's something about that kind of person that just fills you with negative feelings. That just fills you with that feeling of like, oh my God, shut up. And those are the people you need to get rid of. Those are the people that you need to get rid of. Because if you're spending your time around those people, if you're spending your time around the people that, are just negative all the time, the people that are pulling you back, that are making fun of you for having big goals or dreams in your career, that are spending their time judging other people and just being honestly overall negative, shitty people, for lack of a better word, those are the people you need to get rid of. Because if you truly want to see success in your career, yes, it comes down to hard work. Yes, it comes down to dedication to your craft. Yes, it comes down to showing up for yourself every day. But the environment is a huge piece of that puzzle. The environment is a huge piece of that puzzle. If you are in a negative environment all the time, you are spending energy that could be spent towards improving your own situation, moving up the ladder. You're spending that energy on trying to convince negative, shitty people of your goals, or to convince negative, shitty people of why you work the way you do, or why you train the way you do, or why what you're doing is going to pay off. And that's just not the way to succeed, because instead of spending it on actually succeeding, you're spending your energy on them. Or they're turning you on to, the negative conspiracy theories or all the other bullshit in the world that isn't going to help push you forward. So my invitation for you is look at your life, look at the people around you, and think about look at your life, look at the people around you, and think about who in your life gives you that feeling of, oh God, not this again. And understand those are the people you need to get rid of. Because if you truly want to see success, if you truly want to win that UFC title, become that professional athlete, have the career that you want, hit the potential that you want, you need to create an environment that is going to foster that. You need to surround yourself with positive people. You need to surround yourself with people that are going to push you forward, people that are going to believe in you and see what you're capable of, instead of all the ones that are just going to point out all the reasons that you can't do it or all the reasons that it doesn't make sense. So I appreciate you all. And the one last point that I wanted to make about that is, if you truly want to see success, you need to put yourself first. And I know a lot of people say that that's, a selfish thing to do. Oh, I need to show up for my kids, or show up for my friends, or show up for my family, or whoever else it might be. But guys, you cannot show up for anyone else if you don't show up for you. And that was one of the best shifts I ever made in my life, was every single day I put me first. I pursue my passions, because even though they take up a lot of time, I am a happier person. So my girlfriend and I don't see each other as often because I work a lot. But when we do see each other, I am a happier person and I'm nicer to be around, because I've spent my day doing what I love to do. But if I was at a 9-to-5 job that I hated, and I was clocked out by 5 p.m. and I was coming home and we were seeing each other every single day, but I was a miserable asshole because I hated my fucking life, that's not better. Just because there's more time, that's not better. And that's what so many of you don't understand. Put the hours into yourself. Focus on improving yourself. Put yourself first, Because if you're putting yourself first, even if you don't have as much time for the people around you, it's going to be a massively elevated version of you that they get to spend time with. And I would much rather spend less time with a happy person than more time with a miserable person. So I appreciate you all for tuning in, especially if you made it this far on the live. Thank you. Now, my big ask of you guys always is subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all of the other social media accounts. All the information on how to do that is going to be linked in the show notes below. And if you got some value from the podcast today, I would love to know what it was. So shoot me a message on any of those platforms. Leave a review for the show. Every single one helps. And as always, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.